Hello and welcome to the Wilderness Podcast. We're doing another one of the Trey takeovers this time, but I'm going to try one out solo. So yesterday was the Summer Summit, and I was just so excited to talk about it that I couldn't wait. And I talked to Dilz, and he wasn't able to get away today to record, and I couldn't find anybody on such short notice. So I'm just going to record a little first impressions for y'all. And when me and Dilz sit down to record again, we'll do a full, more in-depth episode, and we'll get both of our official thoughts on it. So yeah, the Summer Summit. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. I couldn't believe, I just think back to, I probably said this a few times, like on the podcast before, but when I first started listening to this podcast was, maybe like 2018, 2019, when every episode, when it came to news, it was like, yeah, we're still waiting for stuff to come out, like they would announce something and it would be like 2 years before it came out. And they just keep blowing me away this year. And like not even the stuff they're announcing, but when they announce something, they're like, oh, and it's coming out in 3 weeks. It's kind of incredible. So yeah, jumping right into it. I missed the beginning of the summit because I was mowing, but I was kind of watching it on Twitch while I was mowing. And I tuned in right as they were showing one of the trailers, and oh my God, they even just the production value that they have in these things, they've just stepped up their game in pretty much every area. So jumping into the summit, I'm looking at the roadmap now. They have these, first off, the roadmap is so much more improved from the last summit, where I think 2 or 3 of their little boxes were like holiday events. And I think the feedback was loud and clear on that. And so every one of the boxes this time around is just, it's all killer, no filler. We have Varlamore Part 2 and 3, which is the final part. So we're getting, we have an announcement for all of what's coming for Varlamore, which is incredible. We have RuneScape's first world boss, which is crazy. And then we have all kinds of different quality of life and little stuff. And then we have League's 5 Raging Echoes, which is other people other than me probably are excited about. But so yeah, just jumping right into first impressions. I'm just going to go in order of this roadmap here. Varlamore Part 2, we got a lot more detail on that, and it looks incredible. So let me pull up this wiki article here. So the big kind of the highlights is we have the herb lore. I don't think they're even calling it a minigame / training method. I'll just stick to calling it a minigame. We have the new group boss, and all of that comes with that, and we have the agility method. So starting off, the thing of these 3 of Varlamore Part 2 that I'm most excited for is this herb lore minigame. And not even the minigame itself, is the rewards coming from it, because they basically are saying like, hey, agility or herb lore sucks, and here is as reward, let's add all this QOL. And honestly, that's generally speaking, that's like my favorite type of reward for like skilling, is when they're just like adding like, hey, this thing's really annoying to do, and it feels good when you unlock, like you do something the annoying way for a little while, and then you unlock this QOL, so you know how good it, like how big of a benefit it is. And not just making it like a day one update, you have a lot less of that feeling of like, I had to do it the hard way and now it's easier. Now it's like, it's just a new addition to the game that you also can unlock, but it doesn't feel like it was just given to you. So they haven't said too much about the herb lore minigame. It's called Mastering Mixology. and it looks like you're going to be in a like kind of a little laboratory, and you're going to be doing some kind of mixology with these different herbs. The picture, there's like a conveyor belt and some different tables. Hopefully it's not like Giant's Foundry where you're trying to like run it between these things and get your potion to like all the right numbers and stuff. I mean, I think the Giant's Foundry and like that style of play could be fun and could be like a satisfying gameplay loop if they would, there's a lot of stuff they could tweak with Giant's Foundry. And I hope this isn't like that where you're like, you're staring at this bar going up, hoping that it doesn't go too far and it doesn't feel AFK, but it doesn't feel like engaging. So we don't have too much detail on the actual training of it, but the rewards is what's very interesting. So going through the rewards here, you're going to be able to buy potion packs, which seems to be just like packs of randomized potions, which is very interesting. I mean, I wonder if that will be a new meta for a lot of different stuff. Will it be an Iron Man meta for getting your first stamina potions, or be a meta for getting your first, anti-venoms? That'd be game changing. We have the goading potion, which is like an aggro potion. So essentially when you drink this potion, everything in a 9x9 square around you will be aggroed to you. So the idea for this is to make, AFK Slayer that much more AFK. I've been doing a lot of Catacomb Slayer, and, after 10 minutes, every stuff doesn't aggro to you anymore. You have to run out of their attack range, the aggro distance, and then come back in. They all start attacking you again. And then you have bursting tasks like Dust Devils, where you're running around with some bronze darts and you're tagging all of them. So this potion would be incredible for that. You could just stand there while stuff is running at you. So that's really cool. And then there is the reagents pouch, which is another kind of crazy. There is a solid argument to be made that 99% of this stuff is, good because it's good for Ironman. And for Herblore, yeah, that's kind of true, because I think so far in my Iron journey, I think it's safe to say that Herblore is the most different skill from a main account. Obviously on a main account, you just buy everything, stand at the bank. But with Herblore, not only are you like having to get the ingredients yourself, you're having to get the seeds for the herbs yourself, you're having to get like every little piece of everything, and it's completely different. So yes, it's fair to say that these are probably only interesting to Ironmen in a lot of ways, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Mainscape Herblore will still be probably exactly how it is. But anyways, so we have this reagents pouch, which is a herb sack for secondary ingredients. So your Mortmeyer fungus, your red spider's eggs, your limpert roots, your unicorn horns. You can have essentially an entire extra 26 of those in your inventory. So when you're, I've been doing a lot of farm runs with limpert roots, you can have a place to store all those. Well, that's a bad example because you can just note them on the tool leprechaun. But for a lot of Ironmen, like I've been needing some red spider's eggs, and the kind of modern version of this is to go to a PvP world with a looting bag. And so you can get that extra inventory, but this would allow you to do that in a much cleaner way. And then next we have the Alchemist outfit, which is, the skilling outfit for Herblore. It will, give you your standard. It doesn't say anything about an XP boost, but it gives you a 10% chance to save a secondary ingredient when mixing potions. So once again, Ironman, your Mortmeyer fungus is very precious to you. So you have a 10% chance to not use one on that. That's pretty cool. And it looks like, oh, cool. You have your normal tops. This is a full outfit. Wow. You have goggles, top, legs, gloves, but only the goggles will be needed for the effect. The rest is pure drip. Okay, cool. Then we have the Alchemist Amulet, which is the imbued version of the classic amulet that can be brought with a small amount of charges on first purchase, but additional charges can be added by using standard amulets of chemistry on it, which is incredible. I want to see this from every chargeable, degradable piece of jewelry in the game. It doesn't change the, cost of an amulet of chemistry. If anybody doesn't know, an amulet of chemistry has 5 charges, and each one of them has a chance of when you're making potions as 3 doses, it'll make it into a 4 dose, and that uses a charge. After 5 charges, the amulet, is gone. And, you, especially on a main, you're spacing out, you've been doing 10,000 potions, you'll go 1,000 potions in and realize that your amulet of chemistry degraded an hour ago. And so the idea of just being able to take all of those, similar to the Ring of Suffering, and use that to charge this Alchemist Amulet, it's so much cleaner. And then you don't have in your bank, 4 bank slots taken up by, Amulet of Chemistry 5, Amulet of Chemistry 4, Amulet of Chemistry 3. So it's clean, but once again, it's not just replacing it. This is something you have to earn. I love it. Next, this is something that, oh my gosh, I had no idea that they would do anything like this, but this is really interesting. So we have the pre-pot device. So if you're not into high-level PVM, rating and stuff, you might not even have ever pre-potted before. But, for those who haven't, right before you run into a raid or next or something, you take a dose of a lot of your applicable potions. So you might take some anti-poison that gives you 12 minutes of anti-poison, so then you don't have to waste an inventory slot on that. Or you'll take your super combat, all that kind of stuff. So the pre-pot device is a device that will allow you to have 5 slots. It has 5 slots, and you can set it to 5 different potions to pre-pot with. So you don't have to have that moment where you say, all right, everybody pre-pot, and then everybody takes their all of their potions and then has to bank really quick to get their inventory back, and you forget to do something, and you grab super anti-poisons instead of super restores, and the whole raid is ruined. So this is really interesting, and I'm interested to see. So this is when they announced it in the video, I thought this was just a quality of life change, but this is a pre-pot device that's tradable. So you'll be able to fill up the device using potions in your inventory, or configure loadouts while at a bank. You can save 4 different loadouts for potions and reorder them, fill up the device. As long as you're within a bank or next to a bank chest, you'll be able to drink from the pre-pot device to consume all the potions from your current loadout. So I don't know if that means you'll still have to have this device in your inventory. It kind of sounds like that, but I mean, even so, it's still a huge quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, potion storage. So you will be able to, and this is all through this mini game that you can, all of these are unlocked. So you can unlock the ability to have a completely separate bank section for your potions, without them taking up, I'm sure if you're like me, you have a separate tab in your bank for your potions, and it probably has legitimately 40 to 60 bank slots, because you have every potion, and then you have your 3 doses, your 2 doses, your 1 doses of that potion. And so this will unlock a completely separate storage in your bank that's not taking up your bank spots for your potions, which is incredible. I mean, oh man, I'm just looking at the picture they have of this interface, and it makes me very happy. I hope in the near future we can have the same, going back to jewelry, I hope we can do the same thing for jewelry, so I don't have, Ring of Dueling 8, Ring of Dueling 7, and so on. But I think this is incredible. I cannot wait. And I mean, that right there is all the rewards we have for the Herblore minigame. And not to mention, just once again, I mean, this is an Herblore minigame. So a way to train Herblore, but besides, from my maxing grind, people talk about rune crafting, they talk about agility. But there was something about what I call those 14-14 skills, which is, herb lore, fletching, crafting, where you're just mixing two things. So you get 14 of one thing, 14 of another thing, and you mix them. And it's like the worst amount of time. It takes like 20 seconds to process. And so it's not enough, like it's just enough time. If you're ADHD enough, it's just enough time for your brain to just move on to something completely different. And by the time you come back, it's been a minute. And so your progress, even though that these methods have, most 14-14 methods have, like 300K per hour XP rates, but I would always get like half of that because it's so hard to stay focused. Like it's just like the worst amount of time. It's not AFK enough to space out completely, and it's not interesting enough to pay full attention. So all I'm trying to say is that just having an herb lore minigame that's hopefully engaging and somewhat interesting, and it isn't so like tedious with the way that herb lore works, is very exciting. So that is the herb lore minigame. I told myself that this was going to be a short episode, but I spent 15 minutes on the very first line of text. So, oh well. So moving on to the agility course that's going to be a part of Varlamore Part 2. It's the Colossal Worm Agility course. So if you've explored Varlamore, you might have wandered over to this like kind of dig site with all these big bones and stuff. And I believe when you try to go into it, it says like, oh, you can't go in there yet or something. So that is going to be the home of the Colossal Worm Agility course. So this is supposed to be some kind of low intensity, mid-range agility course. So the idea is that it's going to be like, it's an agility course, so you're going to be running in circles for hours and hours and hours, but it sounds like it's going to have much longer animations. So it'll be much more AFK. You can click on something and it might take you 10 seconds to go through whatever you're doing, but you'll have a bigger XP drop. But they're saying it's still going to come in lower, like beneath the relative rooftops, because they don't want to replace those, because this is a lower intensity method. So it's just, something we've been asking for since the dawn of time, which is AFK agility. So it'll be really interesting to see their version of that, and how it's kind of a question of like, how AFK are they willing to let agility get? Because I think that if they add literal exercise bikes and treadmills, there's going to be riots, because that's like, it's RS3, it's too far, it's easy escape. I don't see that happening. So this could be a nice kind of balance between that, maybe not AFK, but more like chill. We'll see. So we have rewards coming from this. They have a super cool looking, graceful recolor. It's got, it's going to be, for a long time, the fighter torso has been the only way for you to show off your six-pack in this game. But now with this Varlamore graceful recolor, you will be able to actually show off your character's midriff. So that is very cool. And then something that they didn't even mention in the live stream, which might be the highlight of the entire Summer Summit, there is a squirrel transmog to make your squirrel pet into a skeleton squirrel, or a bone squirrel, which is super cool. But yeah, they didn't go too into detail with the agility course, probably because it's just going to be an agility course. So then the final part of Varlamore Part 2 that's super exciting is the new group boss. So when they played the video talking about that, they were pretty clear that not even the development team knows how this is pronounced. It's like Huey Codal, I think, but it's going to be, the only thing anybody's ever going to call it is Huey. So we're going to call this the Huey boss, which is a group dragon boss, or draconic. I don't know if it's technically a dragon or not, but it's very cool looking, very, fitting with the Varlamore theme, kind of like a more of an Aztec looking dragon, like from more like South American fantasy as opposed to our general European fantasy. Looks very cool. I don't have any details on the actual fight. It's supposed to be kind of mid-range group boss. So maybe what Sarachnis was supposed to be. They mentioned, like, hey, we gave you Scurious and we gave you some kind of introduction things. So when you get to the point where you're kind of bored with Scurious, this is kind of the next step. So once again, just Jagex just filling in every one of these little niches of the progression, which we love to see. Nobody cares about any of this because all anybody cares about is the rewards. So first off, we have the Tome of Earth. We have a Tome of Fire, we have a Tome of Water, and now we're getting a Tome of Earth. Can't wait for the Tome of Air. I've been playing this Iron Man account. I got spooned a Tome of Fire, and I cannot believe how often I'm using that and how much I just got done with a neck reel task, so I'm bursting them, and wish I had a Tome of Water because then I wouldn't be running out of water runes. So excited for another tome. I can't wait. Maybe one day we'll get the Avatar tome with all 4 elements, whatever that looks like. Then we have the Dragon Hunter Wand. So this will be the first magic Dragonbane weapon. So right now we have the Dragon Hunter Lance and the Dragon Hunter Crossbow that do a ton of damage to dragons. So we'll have a magic version of that. And it'll be very interesting to see where that slots in. I don't know if we'll be doing Magic Vorkath, Magic Brutal Black Dragons, Magic... that'll be really good at the Ulm fight. Oh, that's interesting. So, I don't know. Maybe it will replace the Shadow at Ulm when you're doing like solo Ulm or even just running. Wow. Yeah, I have no idea. But this might have been in a blog beforehand. This is the first time I was hearing about it. And, my first reaction was like, damn, that's going to crash the market on the Lance. And the Dragon Hunter Crossbow has kind of been on a downward spiral for a long time. I think currently its only uses are Vorkath and Ulm. And I think even in Ulm, it's, pretty much, at Vorkath, it's pretty much replaced by the Lance. And at Ulm, it's pretty much replaced by the Shadow. So or the T-Bow, of course. But, I might be wrong on that. But, all that to say, we'll see where this Dragon Hunter Wand slots in. And my first reaction is like, oh man, like now they're going to take the prices of these. But they point out this boss that you get this from is a dragon. And so people are probably going to use the Dragon Hunter Lance and the Dragon Hunter Crossbow to get this item. So there is somewhat still of a slot for that. Then we have the Huey Codal Hide Armor, which is a new set of Dragon Hide Armor, which is supposed to be an improvement over the Blessed Hide armor that you get from Hard Clue Scrolls. So that's really interesting. Clues are like 90% useless, the items you get from them. And then the 10% that is useful, like 8% of that is just items that are useful for other clues. So, you need to get your Crozier and your like Stole for like hard clue steps. And then there's that 2% that is your Ranger Boots and your Blessed Hide, which are things that are actually useful. And, Blessed Hide is Black Dragon Hide with a prayer bonus, but also super useful for like God Wars because they're all like aligned with a god and they're all different colors. So you get some fun fashionscape. And I don't know, I'm a little sad to see that go. I don't know what the rates are going to be on all this. Other prices will be on all of this. And we'll see. But yeah, this is a improvement over the Blessed Hide. So it'll have the same, I believe has the same stats as like attack stats and stuff, but it will have a higher prayer bonus, which is great. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's awesome. I'm excited to have it. And they don't have any pictures, but with how they've been doing things recently, I'm sure it's going to look super cool. But it would make me sad to see Clue Scrolls be even less useful and mostly just for collection log, completionists and alkables. But here we are. And then finally, there's a prayer regeneration potion. I don't know. Okay, so you're the herb for the potion will be dropped from the boss, and then you'll combine it. Oh, interesting. So you'll get the herb from the boss, and then there's a secondary alidarium that you get from the Herblore minigame. Well, that's a cool idea. But yeah, prayer regeneration potion. So if you've used the prayer enhance and chambers of Zarek, or if you've used the scarab beetle in TOA, something that slowly regenerates your prayer over time. So that is the Huey Codal group boss, and that is also what we have from Varlamore Part 2, The Rising Darkness, and that, once again, they're announcing all this, and I'm like, man, I can't wait, maybe like March of next year at the soonest. And then they say September 25th, like 3 weeks from now. And I'm just still kind of, I know they've been talking about Varlamore Part 2 for a while, so I guess it's not like, oh, they announced it and then they're releasing it, but I just still think it's incredible. So let's move on. On their little roadmap here. So that's Varlamore Part 2, September 25th. Next, they have the Curse of Arav, which is just winter 2024. So I guess they're a little less precise with that one. But this is I believe they said it was going to be a master tier quest. This is another port from RS3 that is going to continue the Majorat storyline. This feels kind of like not a filler quest, but kind of a stepping stone quest, a prelude to whatever. Someone who knows more about RS3 probably could tell me what the that quest is. That is kind of the culmination of the Majorat storyline. But this is, kind of, it feels very similar to the Defender of Varrock that they did last summit, especially the reward. So the reward they have from this is going to be a new helmet slot from an upgraded version of the Armored Zombies, which it says it slots right next to the Dwarven helmet for a crush bonus. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting to me because they've been really focusing on crush bonus for melee and like mid-game crush bonus, early Iron Man crush bonuses. They've had such a focus on that with the zombie axe, and some of the other updates they've had. And as a early mid-game Iron Man, I've been really surprised by how much crush, options there are and how few stab options there are. Like I've been wanting to get into TOA, which is like all stab focus. And obviously the best weapon for that is the Fang. But how do I get the Fang? Well, you either need like the next best option is the Karis Partisan. And then you have like, a Zamorakian Hosta or like a Dragon Sword and just kind of some random things. But I'm surprised with all of these updates that they're not releasing some kind of zombie axe, but with stab. So maybe soon. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so that's the curse. Where does that go? Curse of Arav. So, a quest that you're probably going to do in 30 minutes and get the reward and never think about it again. But anyways, moving on to November. Wow, that's in November. November 2024 is the Wrathmaw. So RuneScape is going to have its first world boss. So what's a world boss? It's something that spawns in, I believe, like one at a time in the entire game. And, think of it as a shooting star, but a boss in the wilderness. So this is going to be a boss that spawns in. Everybody starts hopping in and killing this boss and going for the rewards from it. And this is a wilderness boss. It's going to spawn all across the wilderness, and it's going to have some interesting rewards to it. So first impressions, it's cool, and I probably will never do it, or at least not for like a year, because I don't understand how they can have something in the wilderness that's this intensive focus on it, and how you could ever expect to get a kill there, because I'm imagining a whole clan's going to drop down. We'll have whatever the new version of Rot is going to go everywhere this boss is 24/7 and kill anybody that's trying to kill it. So I don't know if it's going to be like, they mentioned that there would be a singles and a multi-combat variant or something like that. I just can't imagine a situation unless you bring your whole clan to fight off PKers while people kill the boss. I don't know. I respectfully withdraw myself from, having too strong of an opinion on that one, because Obviously, I am no wilderness expert, but when it comes to the rewards for it, we have. Well, let me first off say I'm really glad that I think this is a cool update. Like, it's a cool idea. I would love more of these kind of things. More shooting star-esque things in the game, because it's one of the things about RuneScape is that you go to content and there's like 50 different worlds to choose from. And so, it's like it can be dead on one world, it can be exciting on another world, and they have themed worlds for a lot of things. And a lot of people don't go to those because they want to do something solo, blah, blah, blah. But I love the idea of something only being on one world. And so everybody just piling in like shooting stars. And the second I say that, I realize you're just going to have to one tick turn off public chat because, people are people. But I do like that concept. It being in the wilderness is kind of wild. But once again, I will save my opinion on that. I'm sure when we get Dilz on here, he'll have much more of a strong opinion on wilderness content. He has been known to like wilderness. But for the rewards, we have the Rathmaw's teeth that have interesting things. So you can use them for a few different things. So the teeth are going to be the main drop. They're tradable, and they the number one thing, like if you don't have any use for them, you can turn them into Revenant Ether, which is cool. But they're going to be used to make a couple things. The two big things are going to be the there it is, the Amulet of Wrath, which is this amulet that's basically made just for this content. So it will tell you where the world boss is. It will have the same stats as the Amulet of Glory and a 15% damage bonus to Rathmaw. So basically, it's a dedicated amulet for this boss. But, we'll also have, well, I don't know. There's no way that this will be cheaper than an Amulet of Glory. So I don't think it will really have any actual use outside of this boss. But, if you're grinding this boss, you're going to have one of these. It's going to be super useful. And so that is something that you will, I think you'll buy. I don't know if you'll buy or use it to craft with these teeth. But then the other kind of section of this is amplified wilderness weapons. So you will be able to use these teeth to add to certain kind of common PvP weapons that kind of need a boost, and you'll be able to amplify them. So what they have right now is the Armadyl Godsword, the Volatile Nightmare Staff, and the Dark Bow. So using these teeth, you will be able to increase these to very high damages. They're going to be even more powerful than they already are, which should be crazy. Once again, I can't have too much of an opinion on this. Obviously, I am not the wilderness guy, and I'm definitely not the PvP guy. So they will have these weapons. They also have amplified tomes. So your Tome of Water, your Tome of Fire, and your Mage's Book will be able to be amplified and get a much better damage bonus. And then the thing I thought was cool though is, so we have the three wards in the game. So there's the Odium ward, there's the Malediction ward, and then kind of the the redheaded stepchild is the Tzil, whatever, the Obsidian Shield. And they're going to, using these teeth, you're going to be able to combine these three wards. So if you don't know, these the Odium and Malediction wards are shields that you can get from killing wilderness bosses that give a magic and range bonus respectively. And you'll be able to combine these three shields to make the Trinity ward, which is going to be basically all three of those combined. So that's pretty cool. But the thing of all of this that I'm the most excited about, which is something that I've been wanting in the game for a long time, that apparently is going to come from this boss, is the Deep Wilderness Teleport. So you're going to be able to, looks like it's just going to straight up be a drop from this boss. It is going to be a teleport tablet that lets you teleport from anywhere in the wilderness. Thank God. I've said for a long time that you should be able to do your home teleport and it take 5 times longer anywhere in the wilderness. Like, I understand why, not teleporting in the wilderness is part of the game. It makes perfect sense. Obviously you don't want to just be able to teleport, even if you're teleblocked, like you can get away just for a second, just long enough to teleport. Like, it's an integral part of the wilderness that you can't teleport in deep wilderness. But when you're doing a hard clue scroll, you go all the way out to the wilderness agility arena. You get your next clue and you gotta walk so far back. And sometimes, like if you're doing something like at the Rogue's Castle, for example, it's faster just to suicide at the Chaos Alley. So it's just annoying. So they're hoping to find the best of both worlds with this tablet. This is going to be a drop from this Wrath Maw, so they'll probably be very expensive for a long time, I would assume. But if you get some of these, it won't. So it requires you've been out of combat for around 20 seconds, and you'll have a very long animation, which is fine. But you will be able to teleport from anywhere in the wilderness. So that's super exciting. It's not like a get out of jail free card from PKers. It's more of just to save you some time. So yeah, that's the Wrath Maw update. Something I think other people besides me will be way more excited about. But I do think it's really cool. And, as I seem to say a lot with these kind of updates, it makes me excited that this is where their head's at. And I'm excited to see other versions of this, other variants that are more in the realm of things I'm interested in, I guess. So that is Wrath Maw coming November 2024. So next here we have an update once again that's not necessarily for me, but something that I think that just seeing the reaction in the clan is going to be very popular, which is Leagues 5. I had no anticipation that there would be another Leagues announced, and once again, no anticipation to be this soon, late November 2024. So Thanksgiving break, if you're here in America, your Thanksgiving break will be spent playing Leagues, I guess. So I there's not too much to say about it. It's the cool thing about it is they decided that, they've done it a few times where they have these area unlocks for Leagues, and they basically, once again, I think they have done a really good job at listening to feedback. And they listened to feedback, and people said, hey, we love the we love the area unlocks. So they decided to just make that a core part of every league going forward. And then the variations they'll do will be separate from that. So every leagues will have something kind of separate, new relics. But yeah, if you're into Leagues, there's a new one coming, and I excited for you to be excited about it. But moving on to the thing that I am excited about, generally speaking, I'm excited about all of this, but there's no 3 letters in the world that I like more than QOL, quality of life. And they, January, February of this next year, they're going to be releasing a slew of some of the previous Game Jam pitches as official updates. So let me pull this article up real quick so I can have a list of them. But we're getting a slew of QOL. I mean, we are already having so much QOL. Like I said, with getting an extra 50 inventory spaces or bank spaces from that Herblore update, I'm just excited. Okay, so first off, they are going to do a lot with the collection log. And I should have said this at the beginning. Everything in here is, most of the things that I'm talking about are being pulled. We will see if any of it doesn't pass. But so we have the first of these Game Jam updates is they're going to be reworking the collection log. So, first the collection log interface is kind of lame, honestly. And they're going to be changing it to be much more visually appealing, similar to what they did with the combat achievements. So the interface is going to get a rework. And after 10,000 different Reddit posts, they're officially polling a collection log item to, flex how much how full your collection log is. So there's kind of two things. I'm not sure. So they're polling a staff and a offhand book. And on the poll, it polled both of them. So I don't know if it's a one or the other thing or a both thing. I don't see anything wrong with having both of them. But essentially, you unlock these different tiers of collection logs. So they have it going from bronze all the way to gilded, which is, oh, that's cool. So gilded is 1350 collection logs, which is not all of them. So that's cool. There's nothing for getting every single collection log because, as most people understand, with the collection log, it's next to impossible to complete. So for example, they have when you get your 100 collection logs, there's a bronze staff and a bronze book, probably nothing worth collecting unless it was a collection log slot. 300 collection logs, you go to iron. 500, you go to steel. 700 is black, and this is probably where we'll start to see people actually, flexing these items. 700 collection logs. I believe I maxed my account around that. So it takes a lot, and that's with intentionally going after collection logs, not just getting them passively from playing the game. So I think 700 is where it's going to start being an actual flex. And you have mithril at 900, adamant at 1,000. So 1,000 collection logs. I mean, we have in our wild clan, we have 500 people, and in the in-game clan, and I want to say maybe under 5 of them have over 1,000 collection logs. So we're getting into the big territory here. If you see mithril through gilded at the GE, that's going to be a huge flex, and I think that's why people dedicate their entire account to getting collection logs, and I think it's going to be very exciting to have something to flex about. We'll start to see a lot more people at Castle Wars just to pick off the last few numbers they need for the next tier. Adamant at 1,000, Rune at 1,100, Dragon at 1,200, and Gilded at 1,350. So you see somebody with the Gilded staff, that'll be, I would be very interested to know how many people currently have that. But funny enough, perfect segue, I will be able to know because they're also going to be doing a collection log high scores. So we'll have an official list of who the highest collection loggers are. I believe all of this is currently happening on some third-party websites, which there's nothing really wrong with that, but it's always better when it's officially going through, and then we can start seeing all these Reddit posts saying why is the top page on whatever boss why are they all bots, like we always see. But it will just add more to that, and then there's a bunch of polling about Iron Man and how that will work with the high scores, and there's a lot of question about basically how they're going to handle all of the items that people got before they added the collection log. And I guess there's some things they can do, like grandfather in, some things they can't. I didn't really play this game consistently until after the collection logs, so I can't really comment on that. But I cannot imagine getting some crazy spoon and not having it count. So I voted yes. So going on with the QOL, that's the collection log revamp. Going on with the QOL is the mini menus. So nothing's too crazy here, just essentially reworking how your max cape and your ring of dueling and all of those things that say rub, and then it goes into your chat box to where to teleport to. They're going to make it so you can do all of that just much more cleanly and not interrupted by combat, and just better. And with menu entry swapper, hopefully you'll be able to basically make any teleport your left click option for any piece of jewelry, which will be cool. So, QOL. Next, we have the bank deposit refresh, which is so needed and so awesome. So they're going to be changing the way that bank deposit boxes work. If you've used it a lot, that a bank deposit box is just a square with a way to deposit your items. It's one way, you can't pull anything out. And the two buttons at the bottom, deposit all inventory, deposit all equipment, and you hit the wrong thing every time. So I do, for Carambuan fishing, I teleport to the gem mine with my Karamja gloves, and then I deposit all of my raw Carambuans, and then I right click empty to empty my fish barrel. And the amount of times that I have accidentally left clicked instead of right click, I'm saying left and right click, this is on mobile, so single tap versus long tap. The amount of times I've accidentally single tapped my fish barrel, had it deposited into my bank, and then had to teleport to an actual bank to pull my fish barrel back out is so annoying. So what this is going to do is they're having a few things with this rework. So it's going to rework the way it looks. This is a podcast, so all I can really do is say it's going to look cooler. The thing that's very exciting and very interesting is the ability to lock inventory slots. So what that will do is it will give you the ability to pick items in your inventory to not be deposited. So if once again, if you have your fish barrel and your Carambuanji in your, Carambuan vessel, you can hit deposit all, and all of your other things in your inventory will get deposited, and none of the things that you selected will go into your bank. So this is going to be probably the most useful application of this is at ZMI, because if you've done much ZMI, you'll have your rune pouch, you'll have some things that you want to keep in your inventory. But when you do ZMI, you get a random assortment of runes. And so you have two options. You can either drop a lot of them, or when you go to the bank, you can deposit each of them one by one. And it's very tedious and annoying. So with this update, you'll be able to set your rune pouch to not be deposited. And then when you go to the bank, you'll hit deposit all, and bada boom. I cannot wait for this. It's such a clean, improvement to the game, and just so cool. And finally, from Game Jam, we have the increase of POH customizations. So this is pretty vague, but essentially they're going to be adding a ton of more customization to your player-owned house, which is never a bad thing. More customization is one of my favorite things, and it'll make, hopefully, I hope that they can add more kind of hard to achieve things. I think for a lot of what they've done for the POH, it's been mostly based on GP sync. There's some things that cost, millions of just straight, cold hard cash to build. And there's not too many of, things that are more of like flex items that are hard to get. The pinnacle of that is the jar system, which is terrible because they made them tradable on accident, all of that, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, all of your kind of achievements in your house, it's like you can build a rack for your mythical cape to show your mythical cape off, which isn't much of a flex to anybody. So I'm hoping that some of these reskins and updates and customizations will bring with them some pretty hard to achieve. Heck, you can work in the that new collection log reward thing and have your house, have some kind of theme to your house based on your 1,000 collection log slots. I don't know, but once again, yeah, it's pretty vague. Just more customization. So I'm excited for it. And that is the Game Jam updates. So that's supposed to be January or February of this upcoming year. Just a bunch of little improvements. Love to see it. If I had my way, I would just keep RuneScape exactly the way it is and then just keep doing updates like that forever, because I will take QOL over sailing any day. All right, we have two more. So the next one is pretty small, but kind of a fun idea. So they're going to be adding, so currently for the giant bosses, we have Bryophyta and Obor. Obor kind of representing the, normal hill giants, kind of hill, like earth, kind of, I think vaguely kind of fits into, well, no, that doesn't make any sense because Bryophyta's earth. Okay, so maybe they're not going for like an elemental thing, but we have hill giants, we have moss giants, and those both have bosses to them. You get to fight those bosses by collecting keys from their normal versions, and then you get chances for each key. You get a chance to fight the boss. It's kind of, well, it's not kind of. It's a bad system. It's annoying. You cannon giants for hours, and I think it's 1 in 128 when you're not in the wilderness for a key. And you get a key for a chance at a rare, Bryophytus Essence or Obor's Club that aren't super useful. One of them's for a clue scroll. It's kind of a bad system. And they say, so I'll keep myself on track here. So the idea is the giant bosses are going to be adding a fire and an ice giant version of this. So for fire giants, there will be a fire giant boss, and for ice giants, there will be an ice giant boss, presumably with the same system of dropping keys to be able to fight the boss and have hopefully some kind of cool reward. So I think that this idea is only interesting if they rework the whole system. And they mentioned in the blog that they're talking about a way to switch that up. So I love the idea of filling in a fire giant boss and an ice giant boss, but I do agree that if it becomes, each of those is its own 100-hour grind just to, blindly get a bunch of keys and go kill something and not get the reward that isn't even useful. It's just a collection log slot. I hope that we can have a more interesting version of that. And I hope that whatever the more interesting version is that they will go back and apply that to the older bosses as well, so that we can just not have a bad gameplay loop. Okay, so finally for the roadmap, late spring 2025 kind of came out of nowhere, but Varlamore Part 3. And this is the final 3 of 3 release for Varlamore. Obviously, they'll have more content, but this is going to be the last section of the map is going to be revealed, and the Varlamore as it is will be fully released until more content is added to it. And this is, the further out we get, the more kind of vague these things are. But there's a few things that they have shown that are pretty exciting. So there's going to be a crab boss, which I don't know what else to say. A crab boss, cool. But there's a much more interesting boss. Let's see if I could pronounce this. The Doom of Makoatl. So this is kind of what people were expecting from Colosseum, what a lot of people were talking about kind of when the whole No Monkey controversy happened, is this is a boss with enraged mechanics. So for those who don't know, enraged mechanics are something from RS3, which simply boils down to when you kill the boss, you can decide to forego your loot and kill the boss again, but the boss will have increased health and damage, but you'll get better loot. And you can just keep going on and on and on, killing this boss over and over again, but it gets harder and harder and your resources are running out. But how far can you go to get the best rewards from it? So it's a really cool idea. It gives this like kind of endless skill ceiling. It has a eternal skill ceiling for these crazy high level PVMers to compete against each other for how far you can go. And you can go 20 kills into this boss and die and lose all your rewards from this entire however long it would take to do that. But if the risk versus the reward, if you pull out while you're still ahead, and you can get millions per hour. So really cool idea. We don't know anything about it except that it's located in one of the new areas of Varlamore Part 3, which is the rainforest, which is I love that. It's a environment I don't think we have anywhere else in the game. So just expanding the world, expanding all of this. I love it. We have a new Slayer dungeon, which is cool. We need more Slayer dungeons because I've once again been doing a lot of Slayer in the Catacombs, and people have no etiquette when it comes to crashing, and every world is full. So it's a bad situation right now, for us mid-level Slayers. And then we have a new fletching activity, which once again, one of the worst 1414 skills on Iron Man and it's not much better on a main. And so they're talking about a way to, with this new fletching activity, I love that they're not calling them mini games anymore. I think that word has a little bit of baggage with it, but it's a mini game. But the fletching activity is, well, there's not much information about it. The most interesting tidbit of it, though, is the ability to recycle your old bows into it. So as you know from anybody who's ever done fletching before, you get a bunch of logs, you make a bunch of bows, you either sell them to the GE, you sell them to a general store, you drop them. They're pretty useless. Once you get up into like magics, a lot of people like to alch them, but your normal up to even like U bows are pretty much useless. And even using them as a bow is pretty much useless because you'll very quickly, upgrade out of those. So the ability to recycle all of those into more fletching XP is super exciting. And that's literally all we know about this activity. I'm excited about it just based on that. So that is the roadmap for the upcoming events. So on their roadmap, they have roadmap and beyond. So there's 3 things on the beyond section. One of them is sailing. So there's no date or anything. They're just kind of saying, this is what we're still working on. And they didn't talk about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. The second one is very exciting. It is the HD and API update. Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay. So this is their official HD mode. I don't really care. It does look really good. I'm excited. I'll use it when it comes out. It doesn't change the gameplay, so it is what it is. I love RuneScape's classic look. I mean, it's just part of the charm of it, but it'll have a weather system, which only is cool if they follow what me and Dilz are saying on the episode where they first talked about this. But this is where we start getting into official plugins, which in my opinion is only relevant for mobile. So first off, I believe it was in October. It doesn't say anything anywhere on here, but in October, we're going to be getting the release of the new version of OSRS Mobile, which is, I don't know. It looks interesting. I'm still not convinced on the new UI, but there's some things I'm super excited for because I've been playing a lot of mobile recently, and the screen just fills up so fast when you have your chat box and the mini map and your inventory open. You have like 10% of your screen that you can actually like move around and do stuff. And what it seems like with their mobile update is that it will kind of solve a lot of that. But once again, I think we said it before when they initially announced this, plugins on mobile are going to be a game changer. They have mentioned that this update in October will have menu entry swapper. I might be wrong about that actually, but we are going to be getting menu entry swapper very soon for mobile, which is going to be so nice. If you don't use menu entry swapper, use RuneLite, get menu entry swapper. It'll change your life. You'll never talk to a banker again. But that's pretty much it for, they're updating making the client HD, adding all this stuff. It's going to be awesome. I'm super excited, but there's not much more to say about it. Okay. So we have one final thing. It's the most controversial. Our CC, when it was happening, got kind of heated. This is definitely the one thing that people are very split on. Everything I've seen from everything else, people have been very positive about, but there's one thing that people are very split on: Project Xanaris. So, long and short of it, officially created RuneScape private servers. RuneScape is now Minecraft. The game is ruined, is kind of what a lot of people are saying. So they're going to be doing Project Xanaris, and there's no date on this. There's not much more information, but what they have said, this is not going to be pulled. This is something that they have hired a complete separate team of developers for, and they said 500 times during the summit that nothing will be taken away from the main game. Not a single resource will be taken away from the team developing the main game. They have hired a completely separate team, and I'm sure that recent increase in membership is going to pay for that. So if you're opposed to this, you can be extra mad about the increased cost of membership. So what does this look like? So if you've played Minecraft, you understand the way private servers work, and it's not just it's not only Minecraft. So Roblox is also known for this. Fortnite recently has done this, and I think that Fortnite is kind of a better comparison because okay, let's just talk about it. So the concern, pros and cons. So these are community private servers. So somebody can make a server where all of your XP is multiplied by 10,000 and you get a 99 in 5 minutes for everything you train. Somebody can make a server where your XP is divided by 100 and it's like ultimate super hard mode. The video they had for this, they had Settled come on and talk about, he could have a world in official Nightmare Man mode. You could have, our clan could have a private server for our bingo. That's only the people that are doing bingo on that world, which would be crazy. You could have an official private server that's literally just for Zuck and Soul Heredit, training. You could run Infernos and be testing them out and learn how to do it so that you can do it in the main game. The possibilities are endless. And the con, it could kill the game. It could. And that's what a lot of people are saying. It's going to, everybody's just going to go into their little cubicle of a private server and the main game is going to die. I think that's pretty much the extent of the criticism for it. It's going to it's going to devalue the main game. It's going to take away from this, massively multiplayer game. And the main game is going to start feeling like a private server because you'll be here by yourself. I don't agree with any of that. So the reason I said I think Fortnite is the best comparison is because, first off, I think Fortnite is a good game. Don't at me. But, with Fortnite, they did this. And when you go to the menu, you have your normal Fortnite. The only good mode, which is no build or build. And, that's 90% of people who get onto Fortnite do that. And then you have the community area where there'll be like obstacle courses or like certain modes and stuff, just different kind of stuff, random stuff. But for the most part, in my experience, you go on, you play a few games of Fortnite, you die, you get tilted, you go over to, a fun game mode, play it for 5 minutes and are like, well, this has no actual progress for my game. And then you go back to the main game. And I truly think that this is what the private servers, I should stop calling them private servers, community servers. I really think that's how this is going to function. So I think that there's going to be some fun, like, someone like Settled will make like, hey, everybody get on, I made this server where everybody has 1 hit point and it's a fully PvP and let's see who's the last man standing. And, people go crazy with it for like a week and then the buzz dies down and everybody goes back to the main game. And I understand that could be a criticism of this to say that the project Xanaris itself will be dead content soon. And I really disagree with that as well. So the facility of it is so what I was saying with Fortnite, I think what's going to happen is this game of RuneScape has so many ungodly long grinds. And I've been through most of them. And on the Iron Man, I will go through the rest of them. But for example, I'm recording a podcast while playing RuneScape. You can do a lot of other things while playing RuneScape. Our last takeover with Dr. Feelgood was talking about you can play 10 different accounts at the same time. So what I think is going to happen with the private servers is I think you're going to get on a long, boring grind. You're going to be doing mining or fishing or cooking. And as we tend to do, your brain's going to start wondering, So the other, your other monitor, you're going to start looking at your other monitor and you're going to, you're going to think through your options. You're going to say, I can make another account. I can watch YouTube. I can watch a movie. I could be productive with my life, go do laundry. That's not going to happen. But now you could say, why don't I fuck around on this private server while my main is cooking? And like, I'll get on this server that's like every goblin will one-shot you or something. I don't know. And or let's hop on that world Jimmy's doing where every quest is auto completed for you. Whatever's going on. And I think you're going to get on that, and it's going to be a little fun distraction. It's going to tickle your brain, and you're going to get, you're going to play it for an hour or so, and you're going to say, okay, well, this means nothing. None of this progress is permanent. And you're going to go back to the main game. I do not think that this is going to kill the main game. Somebody can clip that and play it back to me when the main game dies. But if you're asking my opinion, I think this game, the easy escape nature of it has a lot more chance of killing the game than this Project Xanaris. Because I think what you are risking with the main game, just completely going away, people all going into their own little corners, is what you can get in return for that is you can have a huge influx of players. For example, I talked on this podcast feels like a long time ago. I met with, I was with a friend and we were talking about World of Warcraft, and he said like, yeah, you can skip all the early game and get to the raids, and the raids are really cool. And I was like, well, the raids are really cool in RuneScape, but it takes like, hundreds of hours to get there. But I could have said, you should get on this private server where you can run these raids in full max gear, full max combat, and just like see if you like it. Or like you can play this mode where your XP is increased by 100 times and see if you like it. But I truly believe that the people who do that and do enjoy it are immediately going to come into the main game and make an account and play it and enjoy it. And the people who don't like it, well, they're not gonna, if they don't like raiding, they're not gonna enjoy killing worms for Slayer. So that will, weed those people out. But I think that the potential is so high. And I get that it's scary. I get that it's change, but I am fully optimistic about the community servers. So that is the biggest controversial one. I understand why people are, it feels like a big change. It feels like an EOC level of change. I can see how people could feel that way. But yeah, that's I don't know. That I don't know where else to go with that. We'll just have to see. They're not pulling this, so this is going to happen. It's just a question of when. But all that said, that is everything I have to initially say about the Summer Summit. That will give us it's got our next updates up until the spring of next year. I think that overall, I could not believe how many updates we have. I cannot believe how good they all look and how well thought out all of the rewards are and everything. This game just keeps getting better and better. And just when I think it's peaked, it keeps getting better. And maybe I'll actually start believing that sailing could be good. We'll see. But that is pretty much all I have to say for now. I guess let me know if this was super bad or weird. I've just been talking. My throat is killing me. I've just been talking for over an hour straight. Yeah, I haven't had time while Dilz is talking to take a drink or anything. So maybe I sound like hoarse by now. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this and stay tuned in hopefully the near future for an official episode going through all of this again with Dilz and hopefully a little more research and a little more, clarification from Jagex on some of this stuff. And yeah, other than that, Take it easy, y'all. Love you.